Abscissa, the first coordinate in an ordered pair of numbers associated with a point in a coordinate plane, also called x-coordinate. Absolute value, the positive number of any pair of opposite non-zero real numbers is the absolute value of each number. The absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of a number a is denoted by acute angle, an angle with measure between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. Addition or subtraction method, a method of solving a system of two equations. One variable is eliminated by adding or subtracting the equations. Additive inverses, a number and its opposite. Angle, a figure formed by two different rays that have the same endpoints. Area, the area of a region is the number of square units it contains. Arrow notation, a notation used in defining a function. For example, p n ray 5n minus 500. Average, the average of a set of numbers is the sum of the numbers divided by the number of numbers. Axis, see coordinate axis. Axis of symmetry of a parabola, the line containing the maximum or minimum point of the parabola. Base of a power, the number that is used as a factor a given number of times. In 2 to the 5th, 2 is the base. Basic, a programming language. Binomial, a polynomial of only two terms. Boundary, a line that separates the coordinate plane into three sets of points: the points on the line, the points above the line, the points below the line. Box and whisker plot, a display of data useful for comparing two distributions. Closed half plane, a graph of an open half plane and its boundary. Coefficient, in the monomial 15 times a squared b squared, 15 is the coefficient, or the numerical coefficient. Collinear points, points that lie on the same line. Combined variation, if a variable varies directly as one variable and inversely as another, the resulting relationship is a combined variation, expressed by zy equals kx, k a non-zero constant. Common factor, a factor of two or more integers is called a common factor of the integers. Complementary angles, two angles are complementary if the sum of their measures is 90 degrees. Each angle is a complement of the other. Completing the square, a method of transforming a quadratic equation so that it is in the form perfect square equals k, given k is greater than or equal to 0. Complex fraction, a fraction whose numerator or denominator contains one or more fractions. Conjugates, if b and d are both non-negative, then the binomials a times the square root of b plus c times the square root of d and a times the square root of b minus c times the square root of d are conjugates of one another. Conjunction, a sentence formed by joining two open sentences by the word and. Page 716. Consecutive even integers. Integers obtained by counting by twos, beginning with an even integer. Consecutive integers. Numbers obtained by counting by ones from any number in the set of integers. Consecutive odd integers. Integers obtained by counting by twos, beginning with any odd integer. Constant. Monomial. A monomial consisting of a numeral only, a term with no variable factor. Constant of variation. The non-zero constant k is a direct variation defined by y equals kx, or in an inverse variation defined by xy equals k, also called constant of proportionality. Converse. The converse of a statement in if-then is obtained by interchanging the if and then parts of the statement. Coordinate axis. The x and y axes in the coordinate plane. Coordinate plane. A plane in which an ordered pair can be located by reference to two intersecting number lines. Coordinate of a point. The number paired with that point on a number line. Coordinates of a point. The abscissa or ordinate of the point, written as an ordered pair of numbers. Cosine. The cosine of an acute angle A in a right angle equals the length of leg adjacent to angle A over the length of hypotenuse. Cubic equation. A polynomial equation with a term of degree 3 as its term of highest degree. Degree. A unit of angle measurement. Degree of a monomial. The sum of the degrees of the variables in the monomial. Degree of a polynomial. The greatest of the degrees of its terms after it has been simplified. Degree of a variable in a monomial. The number of times that the variable occurs as a factor in the monomial. Difference. See subtraction. Direct variation. A function defined by an equation of the form y equals kx, where k is a non-zero constant. We say that y is directly proportional to x. See also quadratic direct variation. Discriminant. For a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, the value of b squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant. Disjoint sets. Two sets that have no members in common. Disjunction. A sentence formed by joining two open sentences by the word or. Distance formula. For any points P1 being x1, y1, and P2 being x2, y2, P1, P2 equals the square root of the sum x2 minus x1 squared plus the sum y2 minus y1 squared. Divisible. One polynomial is evenly divisible by another polynomial if the quotient is also a polynomial. Division. For every real number a and every non-zeroed real number b, the quotient a divided by a, or a over b, is defined by a divided by b equals a times 1 over b. Domain of a function. See under function. Domain of a variable. The given set of numbers that the variable may represent. Double root. See multiple root. Empty set. The set with no members, the null set. Endpoint. The starting point of array. Equation. A statement formed by placing an equals sign between two numerical or variable expressions. Equilateral triangle. A triangle with all sides of equal length. Page 717. Equivalent equations. Equations that have the same solution set over a given domain. Equivalent expressions. Expressions that represent the same number for all values of the variable that they contain. Equivalent inequality. An inequality that has the same solution set as a given inequality. Equivalent system. A system of equations having the same solution set as another system. Evaluating a variable expression. Replacing each variable in the expression by a given value and simplifying the result. Even integer. An integer that is the product of 2 and any integer. Event. Any possible subset of the sample space resulting from an experiment. Expanded notation. A way of writing numbers that uses powers of 10 to express place values. Exponent. In a power, the number that indicates how many times the base is used as a factor. In 6 to the 5th, 5 is the exponent. Exponential form of a power. The expression n to the 4th is the exponential form of n times n times n times n. Extremes. In the proportion a is to b is equal to c to d, a and d are the extremes. Factor. When two or more numbers are multiplied, each of the numbers is a factor of the product. Factor set. The name given to the set over which a number is factored. Factor completely. A polynomial is factored completely when it is expressed as the product of a monomial and one or more prime polynomials. Factoring. Factoring a number over a given set is writing the number as a product of numbers in that set. Factors. Numbers that are multiplied together to produce a product. Finite decimal. See terminating decimal. Formula. An equation that states a rule about a relationship. Fraction. An expression in the form a over b. b cannot equal 0. Fractional equation. An equation with a variable in the denominator of one or more terms. Frequency distribution. A summary of data that displays the items according to frequency of occurrence. Function. A correspondence between two sets, the domain and the range that assigns to each member of the domain exactly one member of the range. Functional notation. A notation used in defining a function. For example, p times n equals 5n minus 500. Graph of an equation in two variables. All the points that are the graphs of the solutions of the equation. Graph of a function. The graph of the equation that defines the function. Graph of an inequality. The graph representing all the numbers in the solution set of the sentence. Graph of a number. The point on a number line that is paired with the number. Graph of an ordered pair. The point in a coordinate plane associated with an ordered pair of real numbers. Graph of a relation. The graphs of all the ordered pairs that form the relation. Graphing method. A method of solving a system of equations in two variables. Greatest common factor of integers. The greatest integer that is a factor of two or more integers. Page 718. Greatest common factor of two or more monomials. The common factor with the greatest coefficient and the greatest degree in each variable. Greatest monomial factor of a polynomial. The GCF of the terms of the polynomial. Greatest value of a function. The y-coordinate of the highest point of the graph of the function. Grouping symbol. A device used to enclose an expression that should be simplified before other operations are performed. Examples: parentheses, brackets, fraction bar. Half plane. See closed half plane and open half plane. Histogram. A graph that describes a frequency distribution. Horizontal axis. The horizontal number line in a coordinate plane, also called the x-axis. Hyperbola. The graph of xy equals k for any non-zero value of k. Hypotenuse. In a right triangle, the side opposite the right angle. Identity. An equation that is true for every value of the variable s. Identity element for addition. 0. Identity element for multiplication. 1. Imaginary numbers. Numbers that involve the imaginary unit I, defined as the square root of -1. Inequality. A statement formed by placing an inequality symbol between numerical or variable expressions. Inequality symbols. Symbols used to show the order of two real numbers. The symbol not equal means is not equal to. Infinite decimal. See non-terminating decimal. Integers. The set consisting of the positive integers, the negative integers, and 0. Intersection of sets. For any two sets A and B, the set consisting of those members and only those members common to AB. Inverse operations. Operations that undo each other, for example, multiplication and division. Inverse variation. A function defined by an equation of the form xy equals k, where k is a non-zero constant. Inverse variation as the square, a function defined by an equation of the form x squared y equals k, where k is a non-zero constant. Irrational numbers, real numbers that cannot be expressed in the form a over b, where a and b are integers. Irreducible polynomial, a polynomial that cannot be expressed as a product of polynomials of lower degree. Isosceles triangle, a triangle having two sides of equal length. The third side is called the base. The angles opposite the equal sides are the base angles. Joint variation. If a variable varies directly as the product of two or more other variables, the resulting relationship is a joint variation, expressed by z equals kxy, k a non-zero constant. Least common denominator, LCD. The least positive common multiple of the denominators of two or more given fractions. Least value of a function. The y-coordinate of the lowest point of the graph of the function. Legs of a right triangle. The sides that form the right angle. Like terms. See similar terms. Page 719. Line segment. The part of a line that consists of 2 points and all points between them, also called segment. Linear equation. A polynomial equation of degree 1. Linear equation of two variables. Any equation equivalent to 1 of the form ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, with a and b not both 0. Its graph is a line. Linear function, a function defined by f times x equals mx plus b. Linear programming, a branch of mathematics concerned with problems that involve maximizing or minimizing a quantity. Linear term, a term of degree 1. Maximum point of a parabola. The highest point, the point whose y-coordinate is the greatest value of the corresponding function. Mean, the sum of the data in a collection divided by the number of items. Mean proportional, when the means of a proportion are equal, each mean is called the mean proportional between the two extremes. Means, in the proportion a, b equals c, d, b and c are the means. Median, in a frequency distribution, the middle number or the average of the two middle numbers when the data are arranged in order. Minimum point of a parabola. The lowest point, the point whose y-coordinate is the least value of the corresponding function. Mixed expression, the sum or difference of a polynomial and a fraction. Mixed number, the sum of an integer and a fraction. Mode, the most frequently occurring number in a frequency distribution. Monomial, an expression that is either a numerable or variable, or the product of a numeral and one or more variables. Multiple, the product of any real number and an integer is a multiple of the real number. Multiple root, a solution of an equation that occurs more than once. Multiplicative inverses. C. Reciprocals. Natural order of integers. Order from least to greatest. Negative integers. The numbers -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on. Negative number. A number paired with a point on the negative side of a number line. Negative side. On a horizontal number line, the side to the left of the origin. Non-terminating decimal. When a common fraction is written as a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator, the result is a non-terminating decimal if a digit or block of digits repeats endlessly as the remainder, also called unending, infinite, repeating, or periodic decimal. Null set. The set with no members, the empty set. Numeral. An expression that names a particular number, a numerical expression. Numerical coefficient. See coefficient. Numerical expression. An expression that names a particular number, a numeral. Obtuse angle. An angle whose measure between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. Odd integer. An integer that is not even. Open half plane. Either of the two regions into which a boundary line separates the coordinate plane. Page 720. Open sentence. A sentence containing one or more variables. Opposite of a number. Each of the numbers in a pair, such as 6 and -6, or -2.5 and 5, also called additive inverse. Ordered pair. A pair of numbers for which the order of the numbers is important. 2, -3 is an ordered pair. Ordinate. The second coordinate in an ordered pair of numbers associated with a point in a coordinate plane, also called y-coordinate. Origin. The 0 point on a number line, the intersection of the axis on a coordinate plane. Parabola. The graph of fx equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where the domain is the set of real numbers and a is not equal to 0. Parallel lines. Lines in the same plane that do not intersect, non-vertical lines that have the same slope. Percent. Another way of saying hundredths, or divided by 100, usually denoted by the symbol. Perfect square. An expression such as x squared, the quantity of x plus 1 squared, or the quantity of 5x minus 3 squared. Perfect square trinomial. An expression with 3 terms, that is the square of a binomial. Perimeter. The perimeter of a plane figure is the distance around it. Periodic decimal. See non-terminating decimal. Perpendicular lines. Any two lines that intersect to form right angles. Plot a point. Locate the graph of an ordered pair of real numbers in a coordinate plane. Polynomial. A sum of monomials. Polynomial equation. An equation whose sides are both polynomials. Positive integers. The numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Positive number. A number paired with a point on the positive side of a number line. Positive side. On a horizontal number line, the side to the right of the origin. Power of a number. The product when a number is multiplied by itself a given number of times. 4 times 4 times 4, or 4 to the third, is the third power of 4. Prime factorization. Expressing a positive integer as a product of primes. Prime number. Prime. An integer greater than 1 that has no positive integral factor other than itself and 1. Prime polynomial. An irreducible polynomial with integral coefficients whose greatest monomial factor is 1. Principal square root. The positive square root of a positive number, denoted by the symbol. Probability. The branch of mathematics that deals with the possibility that an event will happen. Probability of an event. The ratio of the number of outcomes favoring the event to the total number of outcomes. Proof. Logical reasoning that uses given facts, definitions, properties, and previously proved theorems to show that a theorem is true. Proportion. An equation that states that two ratios are equal. Pythagorean theorem. In any right triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the lengths of the leg. The converse is also true. Quadrant. One of the four regions into which the coordinate axes separate the plane. Quadratic direct variation. A function defined by an equation of the form y equals kx squared, where k is a non-zero constant. Quadratic equation. A polynomial equation whose term of highest degree is quadratic. Page 721. Quadratic formula. The solutions of a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A is not equal to 0 and b squared minus 4ac is greater than or equal to 0 are given by the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Quadratic function. A function defined by f times x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. A is not equal to 0. Quadratic polynomial. A trinomial whose term of greatest degree is quadratic. Quadratic term. A term of degree 2. Quotient. See division. Radical. An expression in the form the square root of a. Radical equation. An equation containing a radical with a variable in the radicand. Radical sign. The symbol square root. Radicand. The symbol written beneath a radical sign. Random experiment. An activity whose outcome can't be predicted when the activity is repeated under essentially the same conditions. Range of a frequency distribution. The difference between the highest and the lowest values. Range of a function. See under function. Rate. A ratio that compares the amounts of two different kinds of measurements. For example, meters per second. Ratio. The ratio of one number to another is the quotient when the first number is divided by the second number, not 0. Rational expression. An expression for a rational number. Rational number. A real number that can be expressed as the quotient of two integers. Rationalizing the denominator. The process of eliminating a radical from the denominator of a fraction. Ray. The part of a line that consists of a point A and all points of the line on one side of A. Real number. Any number that is either positive, negative, or 0. Reciprocals. Two numbers whose product is 1, also called multiplicative inverses. Relation. Any set of ordered pairs. The set of first coordinates of the ordered pairs is the domain of the relation. The set of second coordinates is the range. Repeating decimal. See non-terminating decimal. Right angle. An angle with measure 90 degrees. Right triangle. A triangle having one right angle. Root of a sentence. See solution of a sentence. Sample space. The set of all possible outcomes of a random experiment. Satisfy an open space. Any solution of the sentence satisfies the sentence. Scientific notation. A positive number in scientific notation is expressed as the product of a number greater than or equal to 1, but less than 10, and an integral power of 10. Sides of an angle. The two rays that form the angle. Sides of an equation. The two expressions joined by the equals sign. Sides of an inequality. The expressions joined by an inequality symbol. Sides of a triangle. The three segments that form the triangle. Similar terms. Two monomials that are exactly alike or are the same except for their numerical coefficients, also called like terms. Page 722. Similar triangles. Two triangles are similar if the measures of two angles of one triangle equal the measure of two angles of the other. Angles with equal measures are called corresponding angles. Sides opposite corresponding angles are called corresponding sides. Simple event. An event that involves a single member of a sample space. Simplest form of an algebraic fraction. A form of the fraction in which the numerator and denominator have no common factor other than 1 and -1. Simplest form of an expression having a square root radical. The form of the expression in which no integral radicand has a square factor other than 1. No fractions are under a radical sign. No radicals are in a denominator. Simplest form of a polynomial. A polynomial is in simplest form when no two of its terms are similar. Simplifying an expression. Replacing an expression containing variables by an equivalent expression with as few terms as possible. Simplifying a numerical expression. replacing the expression by the simplest name for its value. Simultaneous equations. See under System of Simultaneous Equations. Sine. The sine of an acute angle A is a right triangle, equals length of leg opposite angle A divided by length of hypotenuse. Slope of a line. If x1, y1 and x2, y2 are two different points on a line, the slope of the line is given by y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. A horizontal line has slope 0. A vertical line has no slope. Slope-intercept form of an equation. The equation of a line in the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Solution of an equation in two variables. An ordered pair of numbers that make the sentence true. Solution of a sentence. Any variable of a variable that turns an open sentence into a true statement. Solution of a system of two equations in two variables. An ordered pair that satisfies both equations at the same time. Solution set of an open sentence. The set of all solutions of the sentence. Solve a conjunction. To find the values of the variable for which both open sentences in the conjunction are true. Solve a disjunction. To find the values of the variable for which at least one of the open sentences in the disjunction is true. Solve an equation. To find the set of all solutions of the equation. Solve an open sentence. To find the solution set of the sentence. Solve a system of two equations in x and y. To find all ordered pairs x, y that make both equations true. Square root. If a squared equals b, then a is a square root of b. Standard deviation. In a frequency distribution, the principal square root of the variance. Standard form of a linear equation. ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers and a, b are not both 0. Standard form of a polynomial equation. A form of the equation in which one side is 0 and the other is a simplified polynomial arranged in order of decreasing degree of the variable. Stem and leaf plot. A way of displaying a frequency distribution. Straight angle. An angle with measure 180 degrees. Substitution method. A method of solving a system of linear equations in two variables. Page 723. Subtraction. For all real numbers, a and b, the difference a minus b is defined by a minus b equals a plus negative b. Supplementary angles. Two angles are supplementary if the sum of their measure is 180 degrees. Each angle is a supplement of the other. System of simultaneous equations. Two or more equations in the same variables. Tangent. The tangent of an acute angle A in a right triangle equals the length of leg opposite angle A divided by length of leg adjacent to angle A. Terminating decimal. When a common fraction is written as a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator, the result is a terminating decimal if the remainder is 0, also called ending decimal or finite decimal. Terms. In the sum a plus b, a and b are also called terms. Theorem. A statement that is shown to be true by use of a logically developed argument. Transformations. Operations on an equation or an inequality that produce a simpler, equivalent statement. Triangle. A figure formed by 3 segments joining 3 points, not on the same line. Each segment is a side, and each point is a vertex of the triangle. Trigonometric functions. The functions sine, cosine, and tangent, each having the set of acute angles as domain. Trigonometric ratios. Ratios of the length of the sides of a right triangle. Trinomial. A polynomial of only 3 terms. Uniform motion. Motion without change in speed or rate. Union of sets. For any 2 sets A and B, the set whose members belong to at least one of the sets A and B. Unit price. The price of 1 unit of a given item. Value of a numerical expression. The number named by the expression. Values of a function. Members of the range of the function. Values of a variable. The numbers that can be represented by the variable. Variable. A symbol used to represent 1 or more numbers. Variable expression. An expression that contains a variable. Variance. In a frequency distribution, the mean of the squares of the distance of each score from the mean. Vertex of an angle. The common endpoint of the rays forming the angle. Vertex of a parabola. The maximum or minimum point of the graph. Vertical angles. 2 angles whose sides are rays in the same line, but in opposite directions. Vertical axis. The vertical number line in a coordinate plane. Vertices of a triangle. See under triangle. Whole numbers. The set consisting of 0 and all the positive integers. Work rate. The fractional part of a job done in a given unit of time. X-axis. The horizontal axis in the coordinate plane. X-coordinate. See abscissa. X-intercept. The x-coordinate of a point where a graph